Hello and welcome into Full Screen Podcast. I'm your host, Kira Aster, and joining me today, as always, in line to return her Halloween costumes from struck companies, as per the nanny's guidelines. It's Raven Ebert. How are you, Raven?
I think if we both go as Nicole Kidman from the AMC commercials, we would be following the guidelines, right? Like,
Yes.
All you need is a pinstripe suit, a kind of a side
Australian
bun.
accent, a little
Australian
bit of,
accent.
like a popcorn. Yep.
And the unshakable belief that heartbreak somehow feels good in an AMC theater. I did experience heartbreak in an AMC theater when someone showed up to the movie, The Witch, 10 minutes in, was like, oh, this is the wrong movie, and left. It's like,
No.
did not need that.
They missed the pleasures. But tell us why you sound so sexy, Raven.
I'm experiencing one of the key tenets of Goth Girl Fall, which is seasonal afflictions. I have the maladies of the season in my fainting bed, trying to make sure that I take care of myself with plenty of hot water, lemon, and honey, and a fan for keeping the vapors away. I tested myself. It's not the dreaded plague. By the way, for folks who don't know, you can order more at-home COVID tests through the USPS. So please do that. You're entitled to do so it shouldn't cost you anything. I needed like a husky, sultry voice to talk about one of the sexiest things a product manager can do, and that is analyze data for future product decisions. So here
excited.
I am.
We're honored that you still joined us, even though you're not feeling that well. You sound great. You look great. Our topic today, data. So guys, we're talking award seasons. We're talking Emmys in particular. We're going to analyze Emmys, the Emmy nominations for 2023 by the numbers. But I do want to touch on why we're talking about this and why awards are important. So how should I put this?
I'll just say, like, in a normal year, you know that fall is coming with the advent of the Emmy Awards. It's like a way to mark the end of summer, you know, like sort of how regular folks use Labor Day to mark that as being the end of summer, basically.
I use the Cannes Film Festival to be like, all right, here we go. Life is starting again.
Right. And in that calendar, this would have normally been earlier in the year. There were two ongoing strikes at the time, the Writers Guild strike and, of course, the still ongoing SAG-AFTRA strike. It is actually, I guess, sour to a point where basically the union is now asking its members not to continue promoting anything that has been affected by these strikes by making sure that their Halloween costumes don't reflect that. So there's a lot of blonde women in Hollywood now who realize they can't dress as Margot Robbie's Barbie, and they're wildly scrambling to find other things.
True heartbreak, really. Sorry, blonde.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get the chance to see an Emmy ceremony, you know, because now it's been postponed to next year, right, Kira? It's January of next year?
January 15th, 2024. And this is fall. September kicks off a lot of things. Festival season has been very dour. No one's doing promotions because, and I should say, we said normal year. In a normal year, we should say this is normal. Labor is standing up for themselves and we 100% support it. But yeah, things are not how we've been used to functioning, I guess, in the previous years. But awards shows matter, guys. Major shows like Oscars and Emmys have long been a vehicle for TV networks and now streamers to draw in audiences and also use that as a platform to charge premium ad rates. And now we know streamers are trying everything to get new audiences, because Wall Street last year was like, y'all are not working for us. Ad tiers, everyone's adding ad tiers, and now we've heard people are looking into beyond Netflix, you know, cracking down on password sharing, and award shows are another way to renovate in a new age of consuming content, shall we say.
Yeah, I think that with the advent of Netflix, it was thought that streaming was like straddling the line of tech and media. I think in terms of pure stocks, which is astrology for boys, Netflix still functions as a tech stock rather than a media stock. But I think when you see the participation of the established fine members of the AMPTP in award shows, they do very much treat themselves as media conglomerates. And this being, award nominations, it's treated as like free marketing and promotion, but it's also a way to establish themselves within the entertainment industry. If you are highly nominated, highly decorated, if you do provide that platform for people to boost their own careers with nominations as well, you attract top talent. It is a way of essentially signaling to other people within the industry that you're a good place to work for. Like calls to like, and if you produce a lot of Emmy nominated shows, people who want to change the landscape of television will try to do that. So Kira and I are gonna basically have a hard time not putting on our product manager hats and saying, well, the data is showing this, because that's really, we reward things that show progress from a metric standpoint as product managers. We see if our customers are gravitating to specific features or they're looking to get to a specific point, and our data is saying that there are certain obstacles that are in their way. There's someone who's bringing in charge to Ted Sarandos while he's sitting hanging upside down from some cave, I think.
That's all you need to do. But I'm excited to talk Emmy Awards. We're passionate about award season. We're passionate about Emmy Awards in particular, but to look at this from a lens of a product manager and look at it from a lens of data and metrics is going to be really interesting. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Product managers, let's go!
So I think we're going to take a pretty biased look at the numbers here and what they mean for streaming. Let's start with the basic question of how did streaming do? So I think in terms of like overall nominations, Kira, it's fair to say that streaming is not an anomaly anymore. Like they are the major representation in most of these nominations. So it's not like, oh, what a quaint idea of streaming in television. That's so funny, because streaming is pretty impressive in its turnout, and it's been dominating over network television and cable over the last couple of years, and it continues to do so with these latest set. Although there's some fudging of the numbers over here, because HBO and Max apparently count for the same thing now, because they're part of the same company.
They're not the same. Even the productions say Max Original and HBO Original, guys.
Yeah, so I count, if we're not counting HBO, which I believe is cable, Max doesn't have much of a showing, but even still, with the presence of Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, and even Freevee and the Roku channel and Hulu, streaming has done pretty well. So it's safe to say that streaming isn't going away in terms of like being a presence, particularly in television programming.
It's a fad, Raven. It's a fad. Streaming's gonna go away. Let's try this new thing called streaming. See how it goes.
It's definitely not the case anymore. But if we're slicing and dicing the actual numbers, I think where we see streaming really dominate is everything within comedy. And I think that comedy on streaming is particularly doing very well. And what I'm really impressed to see as a consumer of television is the variety and the type of comedy. Although the inclusion of The Bear, which is strictly available on FX on Hulu, I don't know what kind of a sick fuck you are to think that is an out-and-out comedy. That the dramedy idea is definitely there. With that being said, the type of comedy that we see within the streaming services is like it runs the gamut, really. I think, again, for example, Wednesday being listed as a comedy series was the right thing to do because, again, the primary goal is to get people to laugh. And this is the type of show that we definitely wouldn't have seen in the Emmys before, especially with like a teen protagonist that's a television show aimed at teenagers as well. I don't think it qualifies in the same realm as Stranger Things. Wednesday is very much like a CW show with better production values, I think.
Yeah. There's whimsy, there's horror, there's a lot more elements that
Yeah.
I mean, I could see if on the surface people are like, "Oh, it's in the same category of Stranger Things," but then you actually watch it and you're like, "Oh, hell."
No, I think it's Stranger Things appeals to adults with nostalgia, especially adults who remember growing up in the 80s. It's also akin to, a lot of other media that's been produced earlier, like Stand By Me and Stephen King's It, which is why the Stranger Things cast, particularly Finn Wolfhard, has been cursed to star in anything that evokes 80s nostalgia. But again, I just see a lot of like different varieties. I loved seeing particularly the representation of Christina Applegate's performance in Dead to Me. Jury Duty very much is a very, I think, a new genre of comedy.
Enough about it. I have such love for that show, for the cast, for James Marsden. What a surprise!
James Marsden's best role to date. I don't think he'll have another career high after this. This is like as good as it can possibly get. But I think, all the usual suspects in terms of comedy are present. Where you have Ted Lasso, Only Murders in the Building. I think, again, The Bear. There's a lot of nominations there as well. But good amount of variety, I would say, in comedy. What do you think?
So we're seeing mostly in comedy, it's a good mix of we're seeing. I heard Apple is in there, Hulu's in there, The Bear. Wait, Hulu's in there twice.
Yeah, technically Hulu's in there twice. I'm just excited for Freevee. I think again it's very heartening for people because Freevee is basically TV on the internet. It's TV with ads again. And it's like an affordable option for people who can't afford to pay for streaming service, but
good experience too. I actually really enjoyed my experience on Freevee. Now I think they've put it on Prime Video as well.
Yes, they have.
Yeah. So I'm not seeing any one service or channel dominate here, right? So it's kind of
I think it's a good even split. I know we've talked about streaming, but I do feel like poor cable. I mean, Abbott Elementary and SNL are doing all of the heavy lifting there. I mean, I would say particularly Abbott Elementary because SNL has no performers nominated. It's all just from, the writing perspective, yeah. And Abbott Elementary is doing all the hard work. So I think whoever's in charge at ABC needs to send fruit baskets to Quinta Brunson like every week and roll out the red carpet for her in terms of whatever she wants.
Traditional model of the TV of old, like 20 plus episodes a season, I believe, or definitely more than the 8 or 13 that we're used to. I do want to say it is a partnership. It's ABC and Warner Brothers together, right? So Abbott Elementary can also be accessed on HBO Max.
Yeah, and I knew that it would be when everybody who has won for a performance at Abbott Elementary trips over themselves to thank David Zaslav first. That's how you know that it can be on HBO Max when the fear is in their eyes when they forget to thank David Zaslav. But ultimately, it is a cable show first. So that's where the representation is. A lot of these streaming...
Talk to me about drama, Raven. Talk to me about the drama situation.
I think, again, like, just to kind of go with that, so streaming had tried, the sitcom model and it didn't pay off with nominations. And I think now that these nominations have come out with drama, it's like, I think streaming is going to not care about drama anymore. Is the representation in drama, especially for the most underrepresented people in Hollywood. I'm talking about men, leading actors, of course, and supporting actors as well. There is none in both actor and supporting actor for streaming. Isn't that's insane to me? And it's like, I think that shows HBO's dominance, because depending on who you ask, streaming has done extremely well. Because HBO is counted as Max, which is counted as streaming, and they're like, oh, look at that. No, the White Lotus and and The Last of Us and the White Lotus, and they're not the streaming shows, so I don't count them at all. But yeah, I was just like, what is going on? I put here in my notes, HBO is a bra for men. It supports them and lifts them up. And I really do believe that, because all the nominations for men come from HBO. It's like literally the entire cast of Succession and The White Lotus. Who I'm sure are very pleasant people in real life, but I can just imagine all of them being in a room together, nervous, because Jeremy Strong is about to pop the fuck off. And insist to, especially the members of the White Lotus cast, that he deserves the nomination and the win, and he's gonna get it because he's the
oldest boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like in terms of drama, I think what Netflix understands, or what I would say all streaming understands, is that they have a better chance doing limited series than a drama series. It's like a one and done, which is good for them. They can just produce something with a limited amount of budget. It's just like a really long movie if you think about it from their perspective. Instead of like a 2-hour movie, it's an 8-hour movie split into like a couple of different parts, maybe 4, maybe 5. Wow, if there's one thing that I don't want to see, it's anything that's getting recognition with Jeffrey Dahmer attached to its name. But
the dominance and culture of that show, which to be honest, I have not watched. I have no interest in watching.
I'm not watching either. It's gonna make you discriminate against people with a Wisconsin accent. So yeah, I think that all of the representation that streaming has is within the limited or anthology. I was happy to see Welcome to Chippendales. As a Bengali myself, I love seeing success stories, and this man, Mr. Banerjee, has had the American dream of starting a business and committing a bunch of murders. And I think that's a really good role model for South Asians out there. I think that we're told that there's only one path to success. To all my other South Asians, I say, be gay, do crime, so that South Asian actors have something to do when they're performing for Hulu or Netflix miniseries about your wild spree killings, white collar.
We bring a lot to the table. You know what I mean? Can we go back to the genre mix-up though? Because I'm seeing, which thankfully in our outline, Raven, you have.
Yeah, I love that hilarious episode of The Bear where Jamie Lee Curtis's bipolar disorder causes her to crash a car into the family living room during Christmas. I could not stop laughing.
Guys, no.
Family drama is hilarious.
Family therapy. Sharon Horgan nominations in drama actress, and is Bad Sisters also nominated for drama series? Probably not, but seeing a lot of like Bad Sister nominations in the drama category, drama actress, drama actors, I was just like, guys, it was not like there were dramatic things here and there, but it's a comedy.
It was the literal opposite of The Bear, where I was like, which part am I supposed to be laughing at? Like, John Bernthal has been nominated as a guest actor in a comedy, and I was like, which part did I laugh at? The constant reminders that this character died by suicide? Was that supposed to be the thing that sent me? I think this is the type of thing, this is the industry thing that's like fudging things and placing your bets on what is more likely to get you a nomination, That's my theory on category fraud.
Category fraud. We see this in Oscars all the time as well. It's just, I think the studio bets on, so in this case, Apple and Disney. Hulu is Disney. And they just kind of go in there and see all the other nominations. And if they see like there's appetite from the voters to see the show as something that can win in this category, they campaign in that category. And it doesn't have to be, so to me it's kind of meaningless to be saying like, oh, the dramatic actor this year or the comedic actress this year. It's just do categories even in terms of genres even matter? You know what I mean? It's just we don't have this in the Oscars, the drama actor and comedy actor.
We don't. No, I think it's only there from a Golden Globes, which is a totally valid award show. But
listen, we know they've done a lot of work on themselves and solved all their racism problems, so you know they're back.
Right now, all that we have is just general fraud and corruption. We've solved racism, now we have to solve greed. We're just fixing humanity with the Golden Globes. I think, again, with the idea of, like, separating things into categories, especially if you talk to people who are invested in music and music criticism, there is something that helps with categories because not all performances are the same. And I can safely say that there are a lot of dramatic actors I've seen who've tried comedy and have not come out well. Whereas for the reverse, there's a lot of comedic actors who do well in dramatic roles and people are surprised as to why. I think Bob Odenkirk stands to that very much because he's known as like the comedy guy, you know, from Mr. Show. And there is something to be said to be highlighting all these different categories because it's meant to be a snapshot of a sustained performance. So I think it is, in my opinion, a valid thing to have those categories. But again, I think like make room. There doesn't need to be 5, 6, 7 nominees. They can be 10. There doesn't have to be such a difficult task of winnowing things down to 6 or 7. Make room for more.
They actually expanded the categories of like how many nominees can be nominated at one time. At the Oscars, I believe it used to be less in terms of Best Picture, and now there's a lot more Best Pictures that can be nominees. So yeah, I do agree with that. I'm also looking at so the drama situation is dire. I didn't realize. So the nominations in drama, actor, directing, writing, and obviously the series, I would say, and let me know if you agree with that, streamers represent on an average of maybe like 20% in all the categories, right? Like less than 20.
I would say less than 20.
Like 1 or 2 nominations out of like the 8 or 7 that are allowed. And in comedy, they dominate. So the average would be closer to 80%.
And that's what's going to matter to them. I think we're just going to see more and more comedy series from different
so this
services.
Is where, guys, people are looking at these numbers. So you'll see streamers go hard on this. I also do want to quickly...
I think HBO is going to continue investing in drama. And then it'll all end up on Max. It's all going to be streaming.
Casey Bloys.
And then we're all gonna die from the heat death of the universe. But I think ultimately, I one of the things I also wanted to bring up, because it's like something that you and I kind of grew up with in the sense of watching The Daily Show with Jon Stewart and The Colbert Report and Comedy Central. And now it's like, I never expected the streaming services to not pursue this. I think, again, the problem with Jon Stewart is making some showing on Apple TV, which is cool. I'm surprised to see that streaming has not done anything in terms of like late night talk shows or game shows or anything like that. I guess they're not concerned
as well. By the way, Apple is not moving forward with the problem with Jon Stewart. Did you hear about that? Because they were going to do a show about China, and they were like, oh no, not our parent company, China.
I mean, Netflix did the same thing with the Patriot Act with Hassan Minhaj when he did his Saudi Arabia episode, right?
To silence Jon Stewart is a huge mistake that they've made. He's not going to go down without a fight. But I know we're running long on this section. I quickly want to... So you hinted at this earlier in this section, but I do want to recap quickly how many nominations are with each streaming service. So HBO/Max, HBO Max, we will just say HBO/Max, have a total of 127 nominations, mostly all of them with HBO, guys.
Mostly Netflix all of them literally White Lotus. It's like anybody who worked on the White Lotus has a nomination. Like random people, the Best Boy Grip, the fucking caterer, they all have nominations.
We support it. And
good for them.
Netflix has 103. Hulu has 64. Apple TV has 54. Prime Video. is at 42. Disney Plus with 40. Shouts to Andor. Paramount/Showtime is at 15. All of them probably with Taylor Sheridan.
And it's mostly Showtime as well. Like, I don't consider Yellow Jackets, for example, to be a Paramount Plus original. It's Showtime.
Good. We should.
It's like the same concept of HBO/Max. Yeah, it's Showtime/Paramount Plus.
I can't believe Showtime is now with Paramount. And then Peacock is at 8, and then the Roku channel and Amazon Freevee, the ad-supported free services, have 12 and 4 respectively. We did an episode on Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Go listen to that one. But it got 8 nominations. And then Freevee, Amazon
Emmy nominated Daniel Radcliffe. Congratulations to him.
Hell yeah. New father.
Love this career arc for him. I think he should do more comedy. He seems like a natural in comedy.
I do want to talk about, maybe we'll talk about it in the next section, but I do want to talk about what this represents, how this is tied to streaming growth. You know?
Oh my god. I mean, I feel like especially Roku and Hulu needs to see what's being rewarded. I would love to see more limited series from Hulu. I think Welcome to Chippendales was a good addition. I really enjoyed The Dropout. I quote The Dropout all the time. I sent the clip of Amanda Seyfried entering the room dancing like a robotic freak to a lot of loved ones. I think that this is also an interesting time because one of the nominations that Hulu has received was for the film Prey. And the idea that a Predator movie is now a Prestige Award nominated piece of art, I'm pretty sure that in my past, where I have been, let's use the word inebriated, I have made jokes like, what if the Predator was in the Wild West and it got drunk on like moonshine and started fucking up a bunch of things around like a western gold mining town? Trachtenberg took my idea and now he's getting an Emmy, or he might get an Emmy for it. I mean, if he does, good for him.
The regrets.
But I just like, I can imagine Arnold chomping down on a cigar and being like, I can't believe somebody from Predator is going to get Emmy. It's possible that Barack Obama might get an Emmy, and that's probably going to make the 2024 election even more contentious. Because the frontrunner for the Republican Party is still bitter about the fact that he doesn't have an Emmy for his reality TV show. So if Barack Obama gets one, it would be really, really funny. But yeah, I think other than that, let's get into what you were talking about, the meat and potatoes, about what we want to see from the data, which is how it's actually going to affect streaming services and their strategy in the upcoming financial quarters, shall we say.
We're approaching Q4. Ooh. All right, let's talk about what does this mean for the future of streaming, all the nominations and the breakdown of nominations and how they feed into the current landscape of streaming and what streamers hopefully can learn from this and how we start to see the shift. So, Raven, I immediately noticed that a little bit of improvement from the past years in terms of genre nominations. Obviously, The Last of Us. Check out our last episode about video games and new media, guys. Last of Us has snapped a lot of nominations. There's a lot of goodwill and a lot of love from the audiences and critics and the voters alike. In terms of genres, there's also Stranger Things and Yellow Jackets.
I can't believe you forgot Andor. I can't believe you forgot Andor.
But here's the thing. I expected more nominations. I expected more.
Oh, there's a lot to break through. I mean, like, we haven't had a genre movie, for example, like Return of the King, doing another Oscar sweep. There's a long way to go. I think we're even seeing, like, House of the Dragon being represented because Game of Thrones kind of kept the door open for it. But
so here's the thing. I know we talked about it off mic, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, I hardly count as genre because they've managed to do something magical where they've broken through the genre into something that's like more pop and mainstream, which is what we hope for all genre content, to reach wider audiences and reach that status of like, now this is the popular thing and reaching beyond genre. So I still stand with that. To me, this is not pure genre. I'd like to see more things like, for example, Dark Winds, Interview with a Vampire, both AMC shows, both incredible, created by Graham Rowland, starring Zahn McClarnon, and then Interview with a Vampire, an incredible modern adaptation of Anne Rice. I was shook.
Yeah, I think Anne Rice's work has been so transcendent and has been with people and has affected people and affected the genre so much. And I think even with fantasy and sci-fi, it's like there's an expectation of still being able to deliver very traditional forms of what's expected to be rewarded in acting. Like, you want that monologue, you want that particular character arc and stuff. So George R.R. Martin, for example, has written for television before, so him being involved in writing a book and then translating that arc into something that television viewers want to see is experience that he has, and maybe that formula isn't being followed with all these other categories and contestants, I should say, for genres, representation. And maybe that's a reason why, is that they're not conforming to these more traditionally expected arcs that you want to see in television performances. So that's my theory. I would say,
I also want to say, I think as genre becomes the popular thing, that your neighbors, your colleagues, your friends, family, right, start to kind of delve deeper into, and that becomes the talk of the town. This stark breakdown in between the nominations and what is popularly consumed is becoming clearer and clearer, and you can tie that back to Emmys kind of, I don't want to say seeming out of touch, but the numbers for this award show are declining steeply, guys.
Yeah, no one is watching cable television, and the Emmys are only broadcast on cable, right?
Yeah. Well, last year they tried to, because it's NBC usually, and they tried to broadcast it on Peacock as well, which, Peacock is one of the lower tier streamers, and only 5 million in viewership despite that. Contrast that to 2013, when streamers were just taking off. It was around 18 million, and since then it's just declined, and last year it was 5 million. I don't expect anything better this year.
Yeah,
maybe,
but I don't want to see cheap tricks like how they tried to invent popular movie categories in the Oscars just so they do that.
I was gonna say, Marvel
fanboys tune
that
in. I don't want that.
Real quickly.
I don't want that.
That backfired real quickly, where they were like, oh, let's get Spider-Man, what was the last one, No Way Home, to be nominated, and let's hear the people out. But I think Johnny Depp ended up winning in categories like because of Twitter votes.
I do. Yeah, people are invested in seeing what they love getting rewarded. I'm hoping that people, for example, who really love The Last of Us will be like, okay, yeah, sure, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to draw them to watching the Emmys.
If the telecast itself leans into the love for The Last of Us, the incredible love for The Last of Us, and the incredible fandom, which has been really supportive and very impressed with this story, if they actually scatter bits and pieces throughout the telecast that relate to Last of Us, for example, you get people watching.
That's not gonna happen, and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why by looking back into the data. Do you see where comedy is represented? It's represented in streaming. What's different about streaming and comedy is that they're not subject to the same rules and censorship as cable television is. If you host your awards on the cable television network, you are subject to the same rules and restrictions that cable comedies themselves are restricted to. As we can see, people are not gravitating towards that. So award show pablum is not going to appeal to people because it's restricted by what censorship dilutes and takes away from comedy. So I was just like,
just put the award shows on Netflix, guys. Like, people will watch. Like, there are people that are cooking their dinner to just Netflix on in the background. And if you put award shows in there, honestly, if you put like the 1997 Oscars or like 2005 Oscars, I will watch it.
And get better hosts too. I mean, put him in the
Emmys,
it's
gonna be Jimmy Kimmel. Wait,
it's gonna be one of them Jimmys. It's one of them damn Jims. Yeah, I think they don't really care that the ratings go down.
I will say though, even with the gaps, I am seeing like little barriers each year kind of being lowered. So I am hopeful that as the years, as more content in this genre space comes out, permeates this, as House of the Dragon has done, in my opinion. I do hope, and I think we will see more genre nominations in these categories, more and more of them being considered as like serious contenders. I think we hinted at this a little bit just when we talked about the just nomination fudging between categories, dramas for comedies for dramas. The voting committee for Emmys themselves, like the voters, fascinating. So the national active members of the Television Academy, made up of about 20,000 producers, actors, public relations managers, sound editors, etc., makeup artists, a lot of people. And the used to be about 25,000, 26,000. I think over the pandemic, the membership actually dropped a little bit. Actually, as an aside.
Yeah, because they died from old age. It's probably why.
I laugh, but that's probably true. It's a little morbid, but I also want to see what the numbers. I would love to see the numbers after the strikes resolve, which hopefully soon. All our love and support to people striking right now. And then the voting itself is a little bit crazy. So I have the newsletter from SAG come to my email, by the way, and when the award season starts, I think weeks preceding that, multiple emails go out to members that are like for your consideration emails, where they push their studios, sort of push their content. And it's like, hey, watch our content, vote for this, watch our actor, vote for him, vote for her. And it's, how many shows do you think? 200? Close to 200? 147? 150? Something like that? There is no way all the members are watching this, right? All of these shows in their entirety. So they get the ballot, or they like pull up the website where they vote, and they just kind of start to go down the line of like, I voted for this category, and on our system, I've watched this, which... like,
we don't know, that's for sure. It could just be them doing people for favors. Maybe it's like personal bias.
That's one theory, but the second theory is that the studios have reached out to them and
100%. It's not about seeing video game adaptations as pieces of art. I think most of these members voted for The Last of Us so that they could touch Pedro Pascal creepily at some event.
Whatever gets these stories out there, I think the daddy discourse got a little bit out of hand, to be honest. I'm happy in general, despite that the genre space is being noticed a lot more for problematic reasons in some ways, but
The question around diversity in the Academy membership, if we have people who are, for example, more associated with the technical side of the craft, that type of diversity is important as well, like diversity in taste as well. We're not just talking about representation in terms of like race, gender, and sexuality. We're talking about like diversity in thinking as well.
Yeah, that's why Emily in Paris gets nominated, right? Her
it is very costume designers and McDonald's.
Listen, so. I'm complicit, and I've watched all of Emily in Paris out there for the story, by which I mean the chef.
Well, I'm sure Netflix thanks you for continuing your subscription to Netflix to watch Emily in Paris, right? I mean, you're still hanging on to Netflix, right? So let's talk about like what effect we have seen with the statistics around the subscriber counts of all of these streaming shows.
I want to look at, we've talked about nominations and sort of like categories, category breakdown in terms of streamers, but I want to look at, with this content, how the streamers and subscribers and what does their growth look like. So Netflix, out of all the streamers, has gained the most subscribers. They've thrown a lot at the wall just password crackdown, ad tier, let's try this. So it's not surprising. 20 million subscribers they're on track to gain by the end of this year. I also would love to see canceled accounts, because I want to see these numbers in terms of like net gain.
I don't think we'll see these numbers, because the writers specifically, I think, asked for viewership counts and not account membership or anything like that. So I don't know if they'll be compelled to share all of that.
Yeah, there need to be some like data scientists and product people just being like, this is a vanity metric, guys, let's look at it holistically. And in terms of Hulu, 3 million subscribers. They gained about 3 million subscribers if compared to last year over year. HBO Max and Disney have either lost or stayed stagnant as of Q3 2023. Well, we're in Q4 right now. But I don't know. What do you think, Raven? Because HBO Max is understandable, because earlier this year the Discovery merger happened. But
the prices went up, so the people were like, "See ya, bye."
Yeah. But Disney prices went up this year, or no? Disney, I think, lost.
No, let's tell you why. Because they fumbled the bag with cricket in India. They had Disney Hotstar, is how it functions in India. They fumbled the rights to showing the Indian Premier League.
Yeah. The ESPN deal, obviously, as we talked about, is huge, and cricket is a religion in India. So
I mean, that's the postmortem for the Disney numbers. I think for HBO Max, it's literally like the price went up. It couldn't be justified.
Merger happened, their reputation sucked. Also, they had The Idol, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, they canceled The Idol. We did it, kids. So, but yeah, these numbers don't surprise me. I think, Netflix did whatever it could to right the ship in terms of like putting in content. They've been on the IP spree lately. And so they're just doing whatever they can to stick to, like, they're just building like the buffet with the most amount of choices so that everyone comes to it.
Exactly. And it's like flipping channels on cable, guys. Like, that's what Netflix is aiming for.
And I think they've offset the password crackdown thing with offering the lower price ads tiers as well. So I think we talked about how streaming pretends to be tech and then pretends to be media at times where it's comfortable for them. In the economic downturn in the tech industry, I think they're not going to be hiring a lot of folks from the tech side. So I don't think there's going to be any real product innovations in terms of what Netflix offers as a streaming service. It's all going to be content based. I think in general, we're headed for an overall economic downturn, which is why I also predicted more investment into comedy, because when the world is literally falling apart, you don't want to watch more Last of Us because you're like, wow, that's me for real. I'm just wandering in the wilderness wasteland of my life trying to make it to the next day. To do comedy, because usually it's not as expensive in terms of like being genre focused. Like, they're not going to do comedies like what we do in The Shadows, for example, which has an FX budget because there's vampires involved. I think that's going to be coming to an end. Is it's going to be expensive to keep putting everybody into bat form and doing all of the special effects that's required for those like delicious little vampire genre specific jokes that we enjoy. I have no idea whether this is true or not, but I also feel like with an election year, there's going to be less emphasis on drama because the drama is going to be coming from the news covering the election. So there's more emphasis on comedy in that as well.
CNN ratings will spike, for sure. I do agree with comedy. I do want to see, I don't know how we will fare, but I'm hopeful about the genre. The peak in genre. Let's go, guys. Should we wrap here for today?
Oh yeah, I think we've sliced and diced the Emmys 2023. let's walk away from the autopsy table. It's just, even though the Emmy 2023 is being held in 2024, it's not happened yet. But, we're just making guesses because we understand that the priority of the streaming services isn't about necessarily making better art, but like making more profitable content. So that's the lens that we looked at this from. I think discussing the nominations from an artistic perspective will be very interesting. I'm really upset Indian Matchmaking has an Emmy nomination.
Don't even say that name.
I'm kind of upset that Harrison Ford doesn't have an Emmy nomination. I think Harrison Ford needs to be rewarded for stuff that isn't Han Solo, because otherwise he's gonna die thinking that all he ever was Han Solo. But this is, it's always fun poring over metrics with you, because I know that when we look at data, your fangs pop out like Lestat from Interview with the Vampire.
I am so excited about our next topic as well, which is going to be more slicing and dicing and talk of penetration, which is Industry Tech Roundup, a look into Facebook Watch, a review of the defunct streaming service.
Oh yeah, let's talk about more convergence of streaming and tech. Turns out it's not so easy to have a streaming service, is it, Mark?
It's meta?
It's that. Well, I mean, the metaverse wasn't the first bad idea Facebook had, so let's dive in there. Imagine Mark Zuckerberg being an Emmy-nominated person. That idea is crazy.
Don't even put that thought out there. All right. Until next time, full screeners. Bye.
Bye, everyone.